I'm Wayne Carey, and this is The Truth Hurts. Well, here we are again for The Truth Hurts, episode 8, Tony.
It's been a good 8 episodes, Wano.
Oh, I'm not... Wayno. Did you bring an umbrella today? It's only 25 degrees and the sun out.
Well, you wouldn't believe this. You know, after we had lunch at Mahjong in St Kilda last week, I left the umbrella there.
So you haven't had one since?
No, well, I've been in Sydney all week where the sun has been out.
I'll tell you what, I'm getting a lot of feedback on your umbrella.
Oh, yeah?
And
from?
Everyone reckons you're a real wanker.
Oh, well, I'll take that as a compliment.
Walking around. So you haven't got one today? So
No, I didn't bring one today. I think it's the first of the 8 episodes where I actually don't need an umbrella. It's a beautiful 22 outside in Melbourne.
And apparently we're going to get another week of this in Melbourne. They reckon it's going to be a nice... we're not weather people here, by the way.
Well, I am.
I do like talking about it, given that you come in here with an umbrella every week.
Well, I've been in Sydney for the best part of last week.
What were you doing up there, Tony?
Well, I had fantastic hospitality from... Ben Stewart, Ian's son, he looked after me for the first 3 days. It was sensational up there. Beautiful penthouse overlooking the Harbour Bridge. It was very hospitable.
So you were basically squatting with mates up in Sydney again?
No, I wasn't squatting. No, I had one night at Ben's. We watched Melbourne and Brisbane, and then I went to the hotel for the remaining 2 days.
You're a professional squatter, you are?
Yep, and you still working out for the Bonds factory?
I tell you what I do want to say. So big weekend of footy, we know that. A lot of ordinary games, some good games. By the way, I'm still on my ban. I've not watched footy. I've seen snippets of things. I've watched snippets of things, and we'll get into that. The MRO and
the MRO.
There's a lot of.
What about the score review system?
Yeah, that's in all sorts of trouble as well. But I'll tell you what I did yesterday. So there's obviously games of footy going on. One down at Geelong, which wasn't a great one, but I went to watch Marvel live. That doesn't mean Marvel Stadium.
Yeah.
I went to watch the Marvel show. So
is this a comic thing?
Well, obviously, it's Marvel. What do you think? Do you think the Marvel characters are real life, Tony?
Wayne, just for those who aren't familiar with it, to explain.
Okay. Well, you've got Iron Man and Spider-Man and the Hulk and all of these guys, right?
Yep.
Anyway,
did Carter take you, or did you take Carter?
So I took Carter.
He didn't take you,
and his little mate, his little ginger-haired mate, right?
Yep.
So Jess and I took the 2 little kids. And his little ginger mate, who I hadn't taken on an excursion before, he dropped his Spider-Man mug about 8 times.
Yeah.
His straw about 12 times. Fell off the seat 6 times. He was a bit. So you get to know these little
idiosyncrasies.
Little and then you had Jess, who's eyeing off. What's his name? Captain America.
Yeah.
So I was. It's the first
what were you doing?
Show. Well, I was just trying to make out I was interested in the show.
Well, this is for your son and his mate. You got to be enthusiastic.
It was. You know what? It was a lot of fun. I'll tell you what. Packed. Kids going everywhere.
Well, is this at Docklands?
It was at the tennis centre.
Okay.
Rod Laver Arena. So a bit of an experience doing that for first time. Normally on a nice Sunday afternoon, I'd be maybe at a local
watering hole
somewhere, or
Albert Park,
or at the footy. I don't know, somewhere.
Yeah,
the Emerald,
yep.
Maros,
with Andy Lewis and Dimmer, and
where else? All of the local, the Rising Sun.
Well, you've paid half the mortgages.
Can we name another hotel? Maybe
Botanical.
Maybe head to the Bot. What's
College Lawn?
The
Gilson.
Yeah. Anyway, all of those.
You're not working for the Age Good Food Guide, are you?
Sometimes, without being facetious, or
self-deprivation.
I could have visited just about all of those on one given Sunday.
And Saturday and Friday and Thursday.
Now, I do want to talk about Geelong.
Yes. What?
Because I've been going...
Geelong the footy club?
Well, that's where Jess and her family are from. So we've been going down to Torquay a little bit, driving up and back for quite some, number of weeks now, especially while the weather's been good. And... going up a bit. Geelong's actually, now the Torquay, we know Torquay, it's right there. It's a beautiful little part of the town. And
home of Bell's Beach.
Growing very quickly. And I've got some good mates that are down there as well. So it's worthwhile going down there all the time. But Geelong gets a bad rap. I like Geelong. I think it's a thriving little place.
Thriving metropolis, you think?
Obviously, their footy team has been very good for a long period of time, albeit they were playing some pretty ordinary opponents yesterday.
What, they're 5-0 and you think they've been average?
Mate, look who they've played. They've played the Bulldogs, who not exactly setting the world on fire.
Yeah.
They played North Melbourne yesterday, 10 goals. They played the Saints in the first game down there as well. So the Saints, and I don't think the Saints had their full complement that particular day. And I think they only just won that. And they've played Hawthorn, and Adelaide have been in ordinary form. So they're 5-0, but they've played no one, and 3 of those have been at home. So I'm not convinced on Geelong just yet. They're a great team. They're well coached. I love everything about the way them as a footy club, no doubt about that. But I want to talk.
And they had some big outs.
Who?
Well, Dangerfield and Hawkins are two pretty big ones.
Yeah, but you're playing the Kangaroos. They could have rested another 4 or 5 if they wanted to. And I'm not. That's
where are you going with this, Wayne?
It's not being rude. I'll tell you where I'm going with it. They've had a strip joint down there.
Oh, are we going down this path? Are we?
Well, because strip joints are a part of a lot of towns, Tony. People.
Yes.
They employ people.
Yes.
Right? So they are a big. This particular strip joint used to be called Alley Cats. I'm looking around our main man here from Torch, Ben, and he's a Geelong boy, and I reckon he's spent a few...
Ben, are you familiar with Alley Cats?
How many times have you been in Alley Cats, Ben? He looks like an Alley Cats sort of dweller.
Well, what about Baby Cats? Is that one of yours?
Baby cats, yeah. Kittens.
Yeah.
Kittens.
Where are we going with this?
I'll tell you what, because it's been renovated. They've had over $1 million spent on it.
Yeah.
And it's called now After Hours. So
that's quite apt.
So what's happened, and this has come across my desk, and I get people to look at it and see whether it's worth.
Your entourage is checking out whether you should.
It's come across my desk that it's been renovated. They've spent $1 million on it. It's now called After Hours, and the opening is this Saturday night.
Yep.
I'm going to have to go and have a look.
Just to test out the talent with your eyes?
No, I'm going to, because you got to just, give a little bit back to the community.
Make sure the Geelong boys are getting down there?
So I'm going to go down and have a check out After Hours, and I can guarantee everyone one thing. So if you're down in Geelong, come to After Hours and check out.
So you're going to be there?
I'm going to poke my head in for about 7 hours.
Now, Wayne, everybody will want to know.
Now listen to this. And by the way, Ben, you'll be there. I know that. You'll be next to me.
Don't know about that.
Anyway, I'm going to go down and check out.
Now, Wayne, everyone wants to know: are you being paid a fee to go and have a look?
That's private. We don't talk about that. I'm not.
Okay.
I'm going down there to check it out. It's like I said, they've had $1 million spent on the place, so I'm going to go and just check it out.
Jess, where are you going, Wayne? It's Saturday night.
She knows where I'm going. They're quite class. They can be quite classy. Let's get on to something a little bit more serious.
Yes.
The MRO again. I'm talking Butters Banfield.
Yes.
Have you seen the incident?
Many a times.
Once again, didn't watch the whole game, but I've seen these incidents. That to me, now Butters hits Banfield in the high with his bum, goes in to protect himself, side on. Banfield half-heartedly puts his head over the ball and leans in. Now, if he goes at that ball the way he should have gone at the ball, then he doesn't get hit in the head. But because he went, like I said, half at it, that's why invariably that contact gets made to him. By the way, that's my opinion, and I'm sure plenty of people will let me know what they think. I've already put it out in the Twitter world and had plenty of feedback on it. I keep saying this, that the onus is upon yourself to protect yourself. It's the same when people are coming back with the flight of the ball and someone coming forward of the ball. If you get hit, then that's a part of the game. Mm. If the other person coming forward of the footy or the ball's on the ground and you lead with your head, right, and don't go at it hard, then you will get hurt. And I get where we're protecting the head, and we'll get onto all of that sort of stuff. We're gonna talk about the Players Association and another business which is in the
fifth quarter,
helping players' welfare after they retire, et cetera, et cetera. So we're going to talk about that a little bit later, But in terms of when you're in the battle, so when you play, like you do have to protect yourself.
Yep.
Yeah.
Do you think Banfield is now scared of the repercussions of the MRO, or you think he was scared because Butters was coming in, eyes for the ball, and knocked him out of the contest.
I think there are times where players just put their head there because they're going to get a free kick. They know they're going to get a free kick. I'm not saying that's what Banfield did, but to me, he went at it not in the manner, if I was coaching Banfield, I would say if you went at that a bit harder, you wouldn't have got hit in the head.
Yeah, but it should be play on. Well, where is the game going?
Invariably, you got hit in the head, Tony, so it's not play on. I'm just saying that I don't think Butters should be getting suspended for that.
Neither do I, but David King made a really good point and said, are we saving for the Brownlow or are we saving for the head?
Kingy, for me, has gone a little bit too far the other way. Kingy's now the...
What, become the MRO police?
Well, I'll tell you what he's become. He's become the, the head high police, and you get hit head high. And you know what? Let's see who can say 10 weeks. Give him 10 weeks. Let's see who can get the bigger headline. He
was talking about paraplegia last night on the on Fox Footy.
So once again, let's see who gets the bigger headline. It's called, what it's called? Being a shock jock.
Yeah, but unless you are deliberately going for the opposition player's head, Correct. It should be play on.
We're not talking about, the 80s and the 90s and, those times of footy. If you can't go at the ball now, and half poop yourself, oh boy, because you are protected like never before. But you've still got to go at the ball, and you still have, an onus upon yourself to protect yourself when you go at the ball.
Yep.
I don't know anyone, unless you're picking the ball up on a half volley, if that ball's there and your peripheral vision goes far and wide, you know that a player's coming there, especially if you're both coming front on. You see the ball. I can still see that TV in front of me, and you know that you're going to get there simultaneously. Guess what you do? You go like that, and you turn. You protect yourself. You don't put your head down and go for the ball like that if you know you're going to get hit in the head.
Yeah, of course.
If they both do that, guess what they do? They both hit heads.
Yeah,
and I fair say that's worse than both hitting shoulders, yeah?
Yeah, correct.
Anyway, it's not a puzzle.
But tackling is becoming conjecturous as well. Like we turned last week, we saw Toby Green, the Giants captain, where he tackled Mac Andrew and flung him to the ground, and he was let off. And then this week, I think it was Jordan Dawson from the Crows captain. Yep. Now he's tackled somebody, and now it's up for conjecture as to whether he should be suspended.
Well, it's why people are getting turned off by the game.
Yes.
Because of the inconsistency that we have in it. And from one week to another, whether it be holding the ball, whether it be the MRO.
Score review.
Oh,
the score review's out of control.
No, it is. And I know we're having a bit of a whinge, but this is why.
Yeah, but so is it the fan at home on the couch, in the pub, in the outer, they are all saying the same thing, that the score review system is ruining the game.
You know what, Tony? We've been saying every year I worked in the media, and we've got someone coming on that worked in the media for longer than what I have. Every single year we talk about the same crap. It's the same issues year after year after year.
Okay, well, why aren't we fixing them, Wayne?
Thanks, Tony.
The score review system, now I'm going to, Ben, you'll have to work out how to bleep this out, but Adam Simpson was clear as day yesterday, waiting for a goal to be awarded. I think it was to Jamie Cripps or Petruccelli. And Adam Simpson said in the box, fuck me, in terms of what the hell is going on and why is it taking so long. Every game is now held up.
So you're a lip reader now.
I am. Is by a score review system. It is ruining the game. Players are turning around knowing they've kicked a goal because an umpire is now checking with the score review system as to whether it was touched behind the line by the player, whether it didn't hit the post or it did hit the post. It's ridiculous. Players are warming down and up in the quarters.
Yeah, goal umpires are just about done. They don't make a call anymore.
Is there technology to actually remove them from the game?
No, they're going to the technology just about every choice they have, unless it goes through post high through the middle.
Yeah.
They're calling for it every time.
Yep.
But they're, from what we read, not that I believe everything you read, but they're apparently being told to do that. So whether that's a sponsorship thing, I'm not sure.
Yeah, but the AFL needs to fix it.
What about some of the coaches in the comp? How do you reckon some of them are going? You've got a strong opinion on Bevo?
Oh, no, I don't. I don't even think I've met Luke Beveridge, but there was
I'm a big fan. For what it's worth, I'm a big Luke Beveridge fan.
Yeah, I think took him to the. He's a premiership coach.
Took them to the Holy Grail. I do have to agree, though. I listened to his press conference.
Yep.
After the game.
Yeah.
He was talking in riddles.
What did he say?
Well, I'd love to know.
Okay.
Have you listened to it?
I listened to some of it. He sounded like he was trying to bamboozle the media.
Well, the media, and there's portions of the media that, have seriously got no idea about footy, right? Yeah. And then there are that do, and when they hear, a premiership coach talk the way he did on the weekend, they walk away. And I don't think it does him any favours because he's a very smart guy. Like I said, I really like him.
Yep.
Bulldogs, people are going, well, are they where they should be? Do they need to have a change? I'm not sure about that. I don't think you throw the baby out with the bathwater just yet. I think that
it's 5 games.
Only 5 games in. Exactly. Correct. Right. So what about Clarko? I tweeted out last week that I loved Clarko's honesty about North Melbourne and where they're at. And people, whenever I say anything about North, people seem to get emotional about it. I'm not emotional about these comments. I'm just purely talking. Just because I played at the footy club doesn't mean
beyond criticism.
Correct. Now, I loved his open and honest view about what he was trying to do last week. This is last week. This isn't yesterday. And I sort of listened to that and I thought, okay, that I love that. At least we know that, you thought about that, but you tried that. It didn't work. That did. So I thought that's great. But how about now have, as a total team, show a little bit of something called desire?
Yeah.
And got a fair reaction for that. Doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't mean you can't chase, tackle, smother, and show the desire that I've spoke about.
Yeah.
I mean, we saw apparently a team yesterday in West Coast who have been, pretty average, and then they've come out and won a game against Richmond, who have been up and down. I get it, but still showing a little bit of ticker.
They were good yesterday, West Coast. But just to digress for a moment, back on to North Melbourne and Hawthorn. Now, they play for the Wooden Spoon this week. I reckon those two would... I'm sure they're going to get a win, at least one win each, but it's going to be an interesting game this week.
They'll at least get what?
One game each win. They will at least win one game.
One, unless it's a draw, will win a game this week. I'll tell you what, you're a genius. You are. Well, one team's going to win probably.
No. What I meant is they will at least have one win for the year. But they will be playing off for the Wooden Spoon this week.
Oh boy.
It's Clarko v Mitchell.
I'm prepared to say this, and I've said it millions of times before. Coaches, and everyone says we've got the best coach. Yes, he was a great coach. Hawthorn 4 premierships. Coaches don't make teams. Teams make coaches. Simple as that.
Did you make Dennis?
Of course I did, but I'm one of 18 that made him.
Did our next two guests make David Parkin?
Of course they did, 100% they did.
Okay.
You think about that team.
Yeah.
When we introduce them soon, we'll
two legends of the Carlton Footy Club.
Absolutely. So, if you've got you need the cattle, and if you've got the cattle, then all of a sudden coaches look very, very good. I have said this numerous times.
Yeah.
Off the top of my head, I'll quickly do this. I think what Lee Matthews did at Collingwood in 1990 was far superior to what he did at Brisbane for the three-peat.
Because of the players?
And I think what Mick Malthouse did at Collingwood when they lost the 2 grand finals against Brisbane was better than what he did at West Coast. Because he had better cattle at West Coast than he had at Collingwood when they lost those 2 flags. So coaches can make teams better, but invariably the team makes the coach. So and it's been proven correct. Look at Tom Brady.
Yes.
Walked away from Belichick, wins a Super Bowl, and Patriots haven't been anywhere since.
Yeah.
Proof's in the pudding.
Well, speaking of West Coast, did you see any of the game v Richmond?
No, but I've seen snippets of it.
Yeah. What did you think of the snippets?
Which
I thought Harley Reed kicking his first goal on home soil yesterday was fantastic. And look, I know we spoke about this briefly prior to the program, but I still think there's a lot of Harley Reed in Chris Judd making those comparisons.
They're not even similar.
Similar in height. Well, what's wrong with this?
I'll tell you the similarities between Harley Reed and Chris Judd.
Oh, yeah?
They've both got 2 arms and 2 legs.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's just that's silly by you.
Well, that's the similarities. They're different players. One's built like a brick shithouse as a young man, and the other one was grease lightning.
Yeah. Well, you obviously didn't see the game yesterday then? Running away from Dustin Martin in the centre square, kicking up forward to Jake Waterman.
Okay, if you think there's similarities, and you
I do.
Me.
Well, there's 2 centimetres difference in height.
Like I said, okay, so yeah.
Oh, no, I'm not going to argue with this.
I want to hear the comparison.
Well, I think there is a lot of similarities dating back to Chris Judd in 2003 when he kicked those 5 goals against Brisbane.
Both got 2 ears.
Oh, yeah, here we go. Both got hair.
No, Chris didn't. Oh, you're an idiot.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, you know what? You can rubbish this, but I think in the next 20 games or 19 games, I think there will be comparisons between Reed and Judd.
Oh, why? See, this is another media toss-off that you talk about. Everyone wants to compare Snowy off the trams with, Bluey off the trams. Like, why?
Because that's what people want to talk about.
Well, I don't think they do. They don't want to.
Well, you need to get back on a tram then.
Harley Reed's Harley Reed. Let him be Harley.
Well, they've given him Ben Cousins' number. They obviously think the world of him. Well, he's a number 1 draft pick. He was on the back page of the West Australian for 40 days straight.
Hang on. It's Nick Natanui's number, by the way. And
everyone's forgotten about him.
Does he play on Nick Nat? Does he play like him as well?
No, he's not quite as tall as Nick Nat.
All right. Let's move on to something a little bit
more
more
serious. You've had your opinion and rubbish mine. I should get that towel and just wring it out wet like you hung me out to dry last week.
All right, something a little bit more serious because this is close to home.
Oh, yeah? What? Now, don't tell me. We're going to talk about the Players Association.
Yes, you knew exactly what we're going to talk about because, look, every year I wrote an article, as you know, about the Players Association about a year and a half ago in The Age, right? And I got a lot of feedback, and a lot of it was from the Players Association and Paul Marsh, who I've spoken to numerous times, Tim Harrington, who works there.
Were they defensive?
Well, I called them the Toothless Tiger. So
what, plural or singular?
I don't know. You're the academic. What?
Well, the Toothless Tiger. You're talking about one person or the organisation?
The organisation. All right.
Well, Paul Marsh is on a 3-month sabbatical.
Is he?
Yes. They sent out a release last week, which I sent to you, to your email.
And why is he going on 3-month holiday in the middle of a footy year?
Well, I can't answer that. It's just only what the release said.
Okay, so you don't know why?
No.
Okay, well, clearly there's a reason why. Good luck to him. Hope he's sunning himself somewhere.
In the Bahamas.
Well, who cares where it is? If he's on a holiday, he's on a holiday. But let's talk about the association because it's close to home. I had a conversation with Tim Harrington only a few weeks ago.
Yeah, he's your former teammate.
Apparently he was our forwards coach too for 5 years and I didn't even know.
Tim's a good bloke, Wayne.
No, he's a good bloke, but he said to me, I was your forwards coach. I said, really? I thought you were the video. I thought he was the video guy.
No need for that.
I don't say anything about anyone I wouldn't say to them. I said this to Tim.
Yeah, okay.
He's starting to look more like the Doctor off Back to the Future.
He's got long hair.
Well, anyway. So let's be serious for a second. So I rang him, well documented, I had a shoulder replacement in June last year, right? I've also had this shoulder reconstructed twice, so this may very well need a replacement going forward. So I spoke to Tim about what the Players Association does for someone, in my situation. Obviously, they picked up the gap. Your medical health, not everyone's got private health, by the way, but I had private health, so that pays for the operation, and then there's a gap, which the Players Association fixes up. So that's a part of what, it's a service.
And you were the highest paid player in the AFL in the history of the game.
It's a service that they offer, and that's whether you play 1 game, 200 games, 300 games, or 50, whatever it is, right?
Yep.
So I rang him in regards to needing some treatment on this shoulder to prevent me from having a shoulder replacement on this arm. He said, we don't look after anything to do with prevention. So even though it's in medical records to suggest that I've had shoulder reconstructions and therefore I've...
And sustained from playing North Melbourne.
So clearly, and yes, and not prevention, it's after I get the operation, then they will help me. I would have thought that's back to front.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Especially with something as serious as that.
Well, you played 272 games.
Obviously, there's concussion. There's all of the things. The
mental health.
The amount of lawsuits that are going, not only are happening right now with the Players Association and the AFL, but are going to happen in the future. They have to get this right.
Who will the Players Association back in this class action?
Who will they? Well, surely they back the players.
Well, surely would be the operative word, but I'm not sure that they would. The AFL funds them to something like at least $10 million a year.
Which has always been a concern of mine. I think they sleep very comfortably next to the AFL.
Yep.
And I think they sleep, in actual fact, they're spooning.
That's a very good analogy.
No, that's my opinion.
Yeah.
I think they spoon the AFL a little bit too much. And I think that to be a proper union, you can't be spooning your employer.
Well, it's like you said off camera. It's a bit like the CFMEU being in bed with the government.
I would have thought.
But in terms of the Players Association and the players and the AFL has done this remarkably well. It's genius by them, but in terms of the players, they should actually turn around and say, we want $20 or more each from the player group, say 800 players, to make it independent of the AFL to become a proper union.
Which is why we've got two special guests coming up to talk about a business that is going in that exact direction.
400 games between them for Carlton.
It's called the Fifth Quarter.
Yep.
And we will get them on right now. Well, here we are, and not unlike me to make a mistake and call these next two gentlemen that are involved in a business, because it's not a business, Tony. It's a non-for-profit organisation that, that looks after past players. And I'd like to welcome Mark McClure and Kenny Hunter, who, as you said off the top, Tony,
legends of the Carlton
Footy Club, legends of the AFL. Grew up watching these two gentlemen. You know what? I love it when old timers they make me actually feel a little bit younger than what I am.
Oh, really?
Although they're not that much older. But you two heard what I just had to say about the Players Association and the difficulties of, what happens there, and that's not just me. That's my personal experience, but also they have done a lot of good things. We know that. Tell us a little bit about the Fifth Quarter.
Okay, thanks, Doug, for having us on, and Tony. Fifth Quarter started with me and Kenny Sheldon actually back in 2021, and we made it a not-for-profit in that time, because we all know that people who struggle beyond sport, and particularly from AFL football. Now, we all know that when people leave the game, that they can lose their identity, their purpose, and they're vulnerable. And a lot of people make poor decisions when they're in that situation, and that can then lead to mental illness and sadly suicide, and we've seen that. So we thought that, over the years we thought, we've got to be better than this as an industry. Can't we be better than what we're doing? So I did a bit of study, and I looked at what the NFL are doing. In 2007, the NFL team owners, the NFL Hall of Fame, the NFL Players Association, created the NFL Player Care Foundation, a not-for-profit organisation.
For past players?
For past players. So with all this, I thought, well, I'll go to the AFL and speak to them about it, and to the AFLPA. So I went to the AFL, and basically they said, well, understand what you're saying, Ken, but that's why we give all the money for the AFL Players Association. It's their problem. So I thought, well, you're absolving yourself of your responsibility by saying that. So I went off to the AFLPA, and they said, well, a lot of the services that you say you can provide, we already do. And I said, well, do you? And I said, yeah. And I said, well, do you get blokes jobs? And they said, no. Well, do you have a relationship with Dementia Australia or Parkinson's? They said, no. And I said, well, you don't do everything. I said, and plus, you have to play one senior game to get the benefits of the AFL player benefits when you retire. So there's a lot of kids out there and families that when they get turfed out of the system, they might have been there for 2 or 3 years but haven't played that senior game. They've got nowhere to go. So unfortunately, you've got all these people and kids and former players out there that just don't have a place to go to and get support and knowledge about where they can go and get this sort of support. And that's the reason we started it.
So you would like the Fifth Quarter to be an extension of the Players Association?
We basically see it as, there's the AFL Players Association, and then you have the clubs, and then we'd be out to the right to be an additional service as like a safety net for those players that fall through the crack. Because we know that, when players, most of them get sacked from the club, so the last place they want to go back to, in that situation, if they need help, they won't go back to the club that sacked them. So where do they go? Yeah. So there's really nowhere for them to go.
Mark, tell us about how you got involved in the Fifth Quarter, and just to back up what you said there, Kenny, you're right. The forgotten ones are guys that can be in a club system, sellers, and be in that system for 5 or 6 years. They mightn't play a game, and then all of a sudden they're out and the job. I've said for years, a recruiting, job recruiter. I tell you what, they're motivated. They're generally, obviously dedicated at a particular sport. They'd be pretty good employees, I would have thought.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you something. How did you feel when you finished?
Lost.
There you go. Well, these people are broken down and busted, and finished at that time. And you're a star in the game, all right. So when they're not that, how do you think they're going? They can't get a job. They can't do this. They can't do that. And I think that's the most important thing for people to do, is give them some hope to actually keep going as a human in life. They've got families, they've got kids, they've got all those things that everyone's got. And who's been looking after them?
So
I can't tell you.
So there's please being the devil's advocate, and there's people out there that say, they're on the club. What people still don't understand that only 5% of players, 5%. So Reece Stanley on the weekend, who by the way has been up and down in his career, he becomes one of the 5% of players that play 200 games.
Yeah,
it's unbelievable to think that, but people just think they're on big money. They get paid this. They hear the top dollar. They don't hear about what we're talking about right now.
Yeah, well, that's right. And I think with us, is with the fifth quarter, we're a not-for-profit, and we're all working voluntarily, and we've got a lot of people from the community involved as well. But the hardest thing, I think, is exactly that, Duck, is that people think that AFL players have got plenty of money and the AFL got plenty of money and they should be paying for this. But in reality, we've got DGR status and we're a not-for-profit, so we got to go out there and try and get companies involved to try and help us, to help the past players, because I don't think we're going to get any help from the AFL or the AFLPA.
Kenny, how many AFL clubs have you spoken with?
I've spoken to quite a few of the past player groups, and we're currently putting out a survey to all the past players through their past player groups. So far we've had about 5 come back, and it's been really positive. So
5 clubs?
5 clubs with their surveys. So what we're trying to do is, obviously, we got to a point where we thought, well, look, we're building this, but what do the past players think? Well, we thought, well, let's go and ask them. So that's why we put out the survey. So we're hoping then the survey can validate a lot of the things that we're trying to do, and we've got some actually data to back that up.
Is the survey digital that the players can go to?
Yes, it is on SurveyMonkey, and we send it out. And
what's the website, just for all the players that are listening, and they can jump on?
Well, it'll be sent out by the past player group, by the club.
Yeah.
So they can't independently go and do it and check out the survey and...
Well, there's a lot there that there's some clubs that have said no, but we'll be able to send past players from those clubs if they want to, if they just hook onto Fifth Quarter, which is spelled FIFTHQTR.com.au or .org.au, sorry. There's a place where they can get information from. But just on all this that we're speaking about, there is, Peter Venables, whose son Dan played at the West Coast Eagles, and in 2019, I think it was, after he played in the Premiership, only a young kid, he got knocked out unconscious playing against Melbourne at the West Coast. His girlfriend at the time drove him home. He thought his head was going to explode. Went to hospital the next day and had 7 brain bleeds. This young kid hasn't been able to play, footy again. Basically, he hasn't been able to work, does some study, but really struggles. And this is a kid that comes from a really solid family. He's tried to better himself and he hasn't been able to get better. So unfortunately, through this system, you would think that the AFL and the industry would sit down with this family and try and work it through. Looks like now that they're forced in going to court, which is going to cost them a lot of money. So, and they don't want to do that. They're football people, but they're getting pushed into that position that they've got no choice. And I understand Peter Venables. If it was my son, I'd be doing the same thing. So it's going to cost them a lot of money to do this, but they've got no choice.
So clearly that's a football incident.
Yes.
Playing AFL, playing AFL footy, and you're saying that the only choice that the family's got is to actually go to court against the very organisation that's where the system is absolutely broken.
Yeah,
broken.
Yeah,
That's as obvious as a nose on your face.
Yes.
That we say, okay, this has happened. We look after that, surely.
Yeah, well, it's clear as day. I was there on.
Well, it's on camera. It's on camera.
Yeah. So, and he had apparently tests prior to that, So there's a baseline where it showed that and through the TAC that he didn't have any damage from, and then he had this concussion, which is clear as day is what happened to the kid. So that's just one example, Ducker, and we all know there's lots of other people out there.
Well, what about you two? In terms of you two played, 400 games between you, 3 premierships.
Yep.
Are you speaking to contemporaries about their struggles in life in the wake of their VFL career?
Well, you do hear and you do speak to a lot of guys. A lot of guys have got pain management issues, obviously from hits and operations that they've had over the years. And I myself and Silas will be the same. Won't it be the same? We've got knocked out plenty of times ourselves, and I made the decision to donate my brain to science a few years ago to the Sports Brain Bank. But I'm sure that at some point in time that I might suffer from it just as much as the next person, but obviously there's people out there that we do see and know that have copped it pretty bad, and you can't ignore what they've gone through to get to that point, I don't think.
Sometimes it takes a few years because deterioration starts in everybody at some stages of their life, 60s, 70s, 80s and 90s, and some people are less.
Yeah, 40s.
40s, you know what I mean? I mean, that is a dangerous part of their life. At 40 years of age, your brain starts to...
Yeah, to degenerate.
So to me, that's all part of it.
Yeah, that's right. Well, or the degenerative diseases like CTE and, Parkinson's and dementia can all be attributed to head knocks. You only have to Google up on the Google and it'll tell you.
Yeah.
It's not a pretty place to play. It's difficult. It's hard. The rules, you were talking about it before, putting your heads down underneath. I mean, that is a dangerous thing to do for people, but they're brave enough to do it. And sometimes they do it well and get it right, but sometimes they do it wrong.
How are you guys feeling individually?
Well, I've been having some tests myself, to tell you the truth. Over the last sort of 3 or 4 months, I've had a heap of stuff, And,
on your brain or your body?
Well, I couldn't find a brain.
Don't undersell yourself, sellers.
No, but on my brain and around concussions and all that sort of stuff. It's scary. It's a scary little business. You got to come up and stand up and try and talk about things, and you forget things, and you do that. So look, it's difficult, and difficult to handle for your wife and your kids and all those things around you. It's a hard caper, and I think that the fifth quarter is a breath of fresh air because you know what. There's not an issue about we're not going to look after you. No, the issue is we will look after you. That's the point, and that's what we want to do. So, and I think that's the most important thing.
I think the hardest thing for me, and when and you know this, I know it was a long time since we all played, but when you're in the moment, when you're there and you're playing, you think you're indestructible. Nothing can hurt you. You do anything to get back. All of those things, and the fifth quarter. It comes along and says, boys, this is something really important. Get behind this, support this. Mm-hmm. I think for current players, they're that programmed about what they're trying to achieve and where they're trying to get to, which is why they struggle in jobs when they finish. They're not even thinking about anything like this. It's as soon as time's up, then you start thinking about, what am I going to do now? And then you start thinking about all of these injuries. That website, and when you go to the clubs, is that message getting out to the part? Because a lot of clubs have it now. I know North Melbourne have just started. I think Boomer Harvey might be in charge of the past players now at North. So this message has got to go to Boomer Harvey, and then he sends it out to all the past players, not the current, the past players. Is that the angle that you're taking, Kenny?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
And you should get something this week, I think, from North Melbourne.
Right.
Because we've gone out and spoken to their past players, and they're very good too, by the way. But that's the whole thing, is that we're trying to support those past player groups, because a lot of the blokes who work on the past players, it's all voluntary. And
I can guarantee you, if Boomer's there, it won't be voluntary.
But if someone's got an issue, it's really hard, and I think and that's why we want to give this service to people, so they've got an option that they can go to where they don't feel embarrassed. It's independent, and people won't know what they're doing. It's all confidential and stuff like that. But I think you're right, Wayne. Is that when people do finish playing, it's a big issue. Is that they miss that adrenaline, the rush of playing at a high level. They miss the camaraderie they've got with their former teammates. they miss the structure that's around them, and then the support that goes with it. And then you wake up one day and it's gone. You know, and it's a really difficult thing for people nowadays to cope with. And you get all of a sudden you could go from 400,000 a year to 50,000.
Well, now it's probably double that.
Yeah, double that.
So what's the biggest gripe from former players to you two about that organisation
What the
A
Players
isn't doing?
Association aren't doing,
Yeah.
for instance.
Well, there's a bit of pick and choose. That's what I see.
Yeah,
I've
right.
heard from people, club players have gone in there. Hey, well, are they how are they going to help us? What's going to go on there? How can they help me as a person? All those sorts of things. And I think that's the biggest problem. Oh, you know, so some bloke gets this much money and this one doesn't get that. It's not about money. It's about actual help. That's all it's about.
Yeah.
Money doesn't mean one thing to anybody after you're finished. It's about how your health is. And we got a lot of unhealthy blokes out there, I can tell you. Who won't even put their hand up.
I don't want to ostracise one, but I mean, Sam Fisher, mental health demons, and look where he is.
Yeah, and that's one, I suppose, is that, you know, for someone like Sam Fisher, if Fifth Quarter existed, he could we could reach out to him, or Sam could reach out to us, and we could help him. And perhaps that early intervention before you even get to that point,
Yep.
when you do lose, go out of the game and you are vulnerable, that there is a place that can help you before you get to that.
Yeah, Kenny, could you be hypothetically a go-between between Fisher and St Kilda to help him understand why they sacked him and what St Kilda can do to better him as a human afterwards?
Yeah, sure. I think we've got enough people in our network now to try and help. We had a guy from an ex-Collingwood player that rang me who got this survey, had my phone number, and he's a 55-year-old guy, and he was a bit lost. Didn't know he wanted a career change, so all of a sudden I put him straight onto a professional organisational psychologist that I knew that specialises in this stuff. So bang, straight away he was in.
Did he have to pay?
No, it was all free. None of us are getting paid. We're all volunteers. So we'd like to get in a position where we can employ a CEO of some sort and have a physical place where people can come to, like a drop-in centre, and get information and support through that way.
Well, it's a no-brainer for me. I mean, it's the AFL Players Association, the AFL, rather than turn a blind eye. I mean, it's a bit like the concussion discussion. You just got to be taking all of the help on that you can.
Yeah,
We've actually put out a thing towards the clubs and said, well, if you put down any members, can you add $10 to the membership? And that goes to
the particular AFL club?
To the particular AFL club to work on and keep helping their players from the past.
Yeah.
That's the key. So if you're at Collingwood, you got $10.
Well, it's a coffee. It's one. It's a coffee.
100,000 members.
It's a coffee.
It's $1 million almost. You know what I mean? That's huge.
Yeah.
That's a big thing. So all those things go together as well. And they go back to their club because they like them sometimes, and they were there forever, and some people don't, but some do. Well, and they get help.
No, you're right. And I think the clubs now need to look at most of the clubs don't have a full-time person looking after this. Shane O'Sullivan perhaps, and now Gavin Krasiska at Collingwood, they just appointed him. Yeah. But each club really needs to have that focal point that is a permanent person that can look after past players.
Well, this is my.
Is the mainstream media expanded?
And no, I want to sell them. I get it. I get it, and you nailed it. There are blokes out there that have long careers that are lost. So imagine those that don't, and it's not that, like you said, the head injuries, whatever it may be. The fact that you've got an organisation that is there to help. I mean, you have to be stupid not to get behind this, and all the past players, and it's up to, by the way, it's up to these past players too to put their hand up and actually talk about it and stand up. You're not weak because you're vulnerable. I think that's the one thing as men, sellers. I mean, we're from here. If you say you're a little bit weak or you need help, it's like you're a failure.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that stigma still remains, and we've just got to get out of that headspace, and we've got to put our hand up, support one another, and get behind one another, and really make sure that this stuff and because let's be honest, it's not there going to probably help us. It's that next group coming through. And for all those current players, trust me, the Paddy Dangerfield, who's the president of the Players Association, and Joel Selwood, who's just retired, guarantee you in 15 years and 10 years, they'll be feeling the effects that you. So really important that those guys realise they might be feeling the effects now, but realise that it'll come.
We've also
get behind it.
We've also talked to Nicole Livingston about the women, and I think that's very
Of
important.
course.
Because they when you watch them play football, they don't duck in the right
Talk about
spots,
courage.
You know what I mean? They do. They just go straight at it, and all of a sudden they do get hurt. So there's a bit of that going on, and a bit of training on how to actually go to the ball. So those sorts of things. So she's very happy to do it. She wants to be a part of it.
Great.
I think that's a really good thing.
Great.
The other thing is without simplifying it, but I mean, we've all got a big network. Is it as simple as some of the old boys just wanting to actually be acknowledged to go back to a game and have a free meal at the MCG, just to know that they're still alive?
There's a bit of that, but I think what we want to do as well is go back to the community where it all started and try and help them with past players. So we're going to trial a fifth quarter mental health and wellbeing game at a club this year, and I've also had a country town that would like us to take it to them as well. And it could be massive. I mean, I think we can make a big difference with mental health and wellbeing out in the communities because we've all been there, we've all got lived experiences, we've all got stories, and they'd love to hear it out in the community. So if there's sponsors out there that would like to get behind us, we certainly need all the help that we can get. We need all the help that we can get from past players, and we need all the help that we can get from prospective sponsors.
Yeah, well, we can put up your social medias, your websites, and they can get on at Wayne Carey, The Truth Hurts, and we can put them in touch with you guys. So anything you need.
Anything. Look, we should join up with the AFL at some time. Try and get some common ground between the two. Because we can't fight with them. There's no value trying to fight.
No, it's not a bad fight. It's not about fighting.
It's about trying to
support one another.
That's right. I need that.
How many cancer organisations are there out there? There's a lot of different organisations that have to invariably come together and fight together. It's the same with this.
Yeah.
And well done, by the way.
But without you three, there's not a $5.2 billion TV rights deal. So everything that you guys worked for, the current crop of players are reaping the benefits.
Yeah, and it's for every kid that's lived their dream and tried to play AFL footy and mightn't have got there, but they're suffering because of it.
Can you imagine the guys who played in the 60s and the 50s and how they're going?
Yeah.
It'd be worse.
Yep.
10 times worse. So we
and nobody recognises them.
No, that's the point.
Yep. All right. Thanks very much for joining us on
Thank
the
you,
Truth
Sellers.
Hurts.
Thank you, Kenny. It was great to have you on.
No, great to be here.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
How good was that, having two Carlton legends have a chat about, the situation that we're in with, the ex-players and what they're going through. Surely the AFL Players Association and the AFL come together with organisations like the Fifth Quarter.
We hope so. We hope that there can be a joining of the forces so it works well for them.
I don't know about you, but you look like you're a bit of a kid in a candy store.
What's this analogy, Wayne?
Well,
where are we going?
I've
got my beautiful
legends,
beautiful shirt
two
from
legends,
Sydney, my jacket from Sydney.
Carlton legends sitting in the room.
Yeah. Kenny
I
Hunter, War number 9.
Mark
Mark McClure, War number 36.
You still feel in awe of blokes like that. They played footy in an era. Well, that when I was a kid, they were.
Yeah.
They were
I know you're about 10 years older than
team.
I am, but I grew up watching these blokes on Channel 7 as a young boy, and I thought they were gods.
I was a South Melbourne supporter growing up.
Yep.
Right.
Who was your favourite player?
Stevie Wright, little red-headed rover.
Was he? Did he win number 26?
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
And my first game, never been out of Wagga before, made the combined team, Big M Little League, it was, combined Wagga team. We wore South Melbourne colours and we went to Princess Park to play at half-time of Sydney v Carlton.
Oh.
And you know what the highlight was? I'll never forget.
Running out?
You had, you say you had, Sellers and Hunter and Wayne Johnson and all these
the
superstars.
Dominator.
All these superstars. Big Mike Fitzpatrick
and
in
then,
the ruck.
And then Jared Healy and a wing.
Oh, unbelievable, right? And so as you imagine,
did Kappa play that day?
No, and we're all thinking, oh, how good's this? And, you think everyone's watching you, then you realise later that everyone goes to get their pie
and their beer
at halftime. But it was just unbelievable. But you know what the biggest thrill was? Not seeing all those guys. Tony Barber, the sale of the century. He was in the crowd and we spotted him. We've got There's Tony Barber. The kid. That excited that we saw Tony Barber. It was
Well, he was the
unbelievable.
biggest thing since sliced bread when we were growing up.
It's great seeing those guys.
It is. Hey, just before we start your next conversation, why would Stevie Wright be your favourite player if you were a big 6'4" centre half forward and Stevie Wright was a ruck rover?
Because when I was 10, I wasn't 6'4".
No,
I wasn't
but
a forward.
I thought you would have aspired for some of the bigger boys.
I was a midfielder, and I was a skinny little twerp.
Were you?
Yeah.
Jeez, you must have
And
had
I'll
some
tell
big ends.
You know why I liked him? I loved him.
Because he was quick, tough.
No, because he pulled me aside at a clinic in Wagga Wagga and took me aside. Obviously saw something special, and had
my God.
and had a kick with me.
Really?
Had it just pulled me aside. He wouldn't remember. I have said this publicly before, but had a kick with me, and from that time on, I fell in love with him. I wore 26 in my first State of Origin game for New South Wales. In 19...
In reference to Stevie Wright.
In reference to Stevie Wright. Became one of my favourite numbers because of him.
And then Barry
Just
Stone
goes
took
to
it.
show you what sort of influence you can have by doing that, just pulling a kid aside. Because I'll never forget that. And on New South Wales...
Well, now you're giving a real nice story. I remember waiting outside the Hawthorn rooms when I was a little kid, and Terry Wallace brushed me. And this is when he was a star, wearing leather pants, had the solarium.
He brushed you?
He brushed me. I said,
that's not like
Terry, can I
Terry
get
Wallace.
it? He
He's a
goes,
good
sorry,
man."
mate. So you know who came out next? Rodney Eade. Signed an autograph, number 26, loved the Rocket.
Oh, so you had... Oh, for the same reason.
Well,
But the Rocket was a little gun. They were a gun team.
Oh, one of my favourite players was Phil Walsh at Collingwood, Peter Moore, and then the Hawthorn boys, Rocket, Dermot, and then Terry Wallace brushed me. And
So
then,
you're a Hawthorn supporter?
No, well, I loved VFL, but...
While we're talking about New South Wales quickly, we'll finish on... they've got a Hall of
Yes.
Fame coming up.
They do.
On the 3rd of May.
Obviously in Sydney.
Yeah, it's New South Wales, so...
Obviously in Sydney, yes.
Well, it could be anywhere in New South Wales, but no, it's being held in Sydney on the 3rd of May. They're inducting people into the New South Wales Football Hall of Fame.
And this is their inaugural dinner.
And I reckon that the man there, Mark McClure...
Our previous guest, Sellers, yep.
I reckon he'd be a fair chance.
Well, he grew up in
I'm actually
in
going
East
up
Sydney.
for it. I'd love to see some old...
Hang on, say that again.
legends. I'd love to see some
No,
old
no,
legends.
go back.
I'm going up there to see who's inducted.
What, just as a...
I'm going up there to see because I want to...
As a guest.
There'll be guys that I grew up with
Yep.
that were legends of the Riverina League.
Yep, Paul
and
Kelly.
Not just Paul Kelly's, I would imagine
legend.
he'd be automatic.
Yep.
I would
Sydney
think.
Premiership captain.
He wasn't a premiership.
Sorry,
captain.
Sydney captain.
Unfortunately, they lost that one.
In 96,
He
sorry.
was a grand final captain and an absolute legend. But guys like there's a guy, Tex Walker's dad, Wayne Walker. Like he was an
So they're Broken Hill, aren't they?
absolute superstar of that league and superstar. Played in all the interleague games. Then there's guys like Laurie Pendrick, who was my hero growing up.
Yep.
Played I don't know how many games, but he went up to Sydney. Then thought stuff this city life. But he was a legend. So all of those sorts of people will be at this induction. It's going to be a ripper. I can't wait to go.
Do you know
up.
what the induction process is?
No idea.
Like played there, lived there, born there?
No idea.
Okay.
No idea. All that I know is that, I'd imagine Mark's going up.
Yep.
And guys that I just mentioned, Paul Kelly is an obvious
Hey,
one. but
now last week you made reference to me and my umbrella about being a penguin.
yeah.
You're not going out and buying a penguin suit, are you, for your next trip to Sydney?
Oh, you mean a tuxedo?
Yes.
I'm not sure whether it's black tie. Actually, I'll have to check and see. But anyway, that's enough of the truth hurts.
It was a fantastic episode.
Well, you know what? I'll tell you what it was. It was a meaningful episode. And let's
Yes.
hope, once again, that there's some synergy between those two. Let's hope there's more synergy between those two than there is us two. Well, Tony, talk about some exciting news. We've got some exciting news because you
dark.
wouldn't believe it.
This is breaking news, isn't it?
Well, the truth, it is breaking news. Bigger than me having the 4-week suspension.
Oh, yes, thank you to
That was pretty big news. By the way, that went viral.
It did go viral. The other thing is, Peter Wright was even an avid watcher of that episode.
Of course he was. But players watch stuff that involves them.
Yeah, correct.
But I talk about exciting. We've partnered up with a new punters app called Surge.
Not a mate of yours from Lygon Street, is he?
Surge. I tell you what.
Is this a new gambling app?
Yes, new
Oh.
gambling app, and it's punters app. I tell you what, it's exciting because is electric.
Really? Now, is your 4-week ban up? Are you actually allowed to watch football?
I am allowed to watch football if I want to, because at the end of the day, I can break that. But I am going to give my tips on the games this weekend. I don't need to have watched all of the games live or seen them. I've watched enough football and I'm reading enough to know who's in form, who's out of form, who's not, and who. Let's be honest, I could actually be put in a coma, right, for, I reckon, 5 years and still know more about footy than what you would.
Do you think you're the Bold and the Beautiful episode, are you?
No, but I still I honestly reckon I could be put in a coma and still know more about you than footy.
Know more about me or know more about football?
No, know more about football. Right. So what we're going to do is we're going to give some tips on the games this week.
Well,
right?
I'll tell you what, Surge does sound like the best app out there in the market.
Well, yeah, very good. Obviously, Sky Racing and all that sort of stuff they're involved in. It is, and I've been on it. I've been having a little bit of a play around, and you know what you get? You get a surge of odds.
So just for all the punters out there, Duck, it's SURGE.
Yep. It's pretty easy. Now, let's go through these games.
Yep.
All right?
Thursday night,
you got the Saints v the Dogs.
Well, I know what you'll be like. You will just back them because Ross Lyon's coach.
I tell you what I do is I trust the Saints' effort. Now, I think the Dogs clearly have been probably a little bit more on the disappointing side, but I tell you what, I'd be tipping the Saints in this one.
I'll tell you how good Ross Lyon is. He got within 1 point of the Giants on the weekend.
A few injuries though.
On Fox Footy last night, did you see the St Kilda girls pulling all the signage down from the rooms halfway through the last quarter, and then someone rang them and said, we're about to win this, and they had to put it back up.
I tell you, the Friday night game's an interesting one too. Crows.
Hey, you got to give the odds for Saints and Bulldogs.
Yeah, $1.70, $2.10 at this stage.
Friday
night, Crows v the Dons. Crows $1.51, the Dons, what's that?
$2.56.
$2.56 right at this point in time. Crows back in some form, and the Dons are up and down, as we know. This could be one that they're down, especially over there.
Who do you like?
I'm going to go with the favourites in that one as well.
Yeah. Saturday night?
And Saturday night, the Lions $1.45, the Cats $2.60. And as we said, it is, well, it's sort of long for the Cats, I would have thought. They're undefeated, Tony.
Oh, sorry, I meant for the Lions.
We did say, though, that they haven't played anyone really good. Yeah, well, playing the Lions at the Gabba is obviously a massive, massive game. So I'm tipping the three favourites.
No, I'm going for the Cats. I really like them. Even though they've got to travel to Brisbane, I just think they'll be too good. And I think they'll probably get big Tommy Hawk back. And at $2.60, I'll get a few odds.
Yep. No, I'd like I said, go the Lions. I think those three, for me, that's who I'm tipping. And let's not forget, chances are you're about to lose. For freak confidential support, call 1-800-858-858 or visit gamblinghelponline.org.au.
You can now punt with true power with the new Surge app. Surge helps you to electrify every race or game. You'll enjoy a lightning-fast interface with live Sky Racing, along with industry-leading promos and offers. Whether you're a seasoned punter or new to the game, Surge is the app for you.
Mate, Surge only works in the punting verse.
Download it today and enjoy your next punt with power.
What are you really gambling with? For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.
I'm Wayne Carey, and this is The Truth Hurts.